The following program contains language and subject matter that you may consider unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised. You got it? Oh, God.
Jesus!
Yeah, he's two different people. He pretends to be a nice guy, but he's not. He's an asshole. That's what he is. He pretends to be a nice guy, and oh yes, I'm just looking for the fam, happy, and then but in another place he talk a lot of shit. It is what it is. Just be a man and say what you say.
All right, welcome everybody to the Say What You Say boxing podcast. This week we're going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to do the intro. My name's Kyle Johnson, one of your co-hosts with my man Marquis Johns, and I've been informed that he has something to rant about, and I've been looking forward to this all week. So Marquis, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Kyle. And by the way, it is going to be one of those things that I really need to stress when I say this, and then I start this off for this episode. Thanks again for listening to Say What You Say boxing podcast. I am Marquis Johnson. I want to just lay this out as succinctly and as nice as possible. Boxing clearly is taking this summer off, and in some ways they've gotten better about hiding this, kind of like local politicians, how they tell you that they're going to change the world or make change or whatever have you. Boxing, honestly, for lack of better terms, guys, is really not doing that, and is pretty much doing absolutely jack shit to prove otherwise. And I want to reinforce this by telling you this. Name the next big time fight that's coming out, and more than likely, anyone who has a casual eyeball will tell you, yeah, it's going to be Canelo versus Triple G in September. That's cool. Today's recording, it's July. So we have a long time to sit around and pretty much twiddle our thumbs and, for lack of better terms, sit here holding the bag here while we wait for actual big time events to happen. It's not happening in boxing. Boxing at the highest level is not happening. This is why nothing's going on and nothing will change otherwise in this sport until we actually get eyeballs to it. And for the longest, when I was covering the sport, Kyle, it makes me wonder a little bit, because the old cliche, no matter what line of work you do, either it's sex work or even in boxing, scared money don't make money. And if you don't advertise, spend money, you can't make any more money. And that's what's going on with boxing. And it's very, very disappointing on so many levels. I mean, I am only a reporter to report on said fights, to tell you these fights are happening. I'm not getting paid from any of these conglomerates or a poster to tell you, hey, check these fights out. I'm not here to tell you guys that to do this or do that or have any bias and sway you any way or another. My goal is to tell you when these fights happen and how they happen. They're not making that happen on my end for me to make that happen. And that's where the problem I have with this is, Kyle. It's a lack of farce and it's complete and utter bullshit. And the one thing I want to remind everyone who's listening to this by the sound of my voice, and I want to be crystal fucking clear on this, boxing is literally becoming transitional programming. Keep an eye on it. There's no network program. Where's the next big time PBC on Fox card? Go ahead, look for it. Check your TV guide. Check your local listings. I'll wait. I'll come back here. Go ahead and pause the podcast. Exactly. That's the problem we have here. And until they fix that, no one's going to see it on a very general level, the sport, let alone anywhere else. Everything else is behind a paywall. That's cool. I mean, you can charge people for as long as they can until they run out of money and find something else to do with their lives. And that's where boxing is. But Kyle, what can I say, man? This sport is what it is. And we have boxing fights this week. At least I thought. I mean, I got an email saying otherwise that we have fights. So I guess we have something to talk about here. So let's get back to it, man.
Well, what we can talk about first was the fun little ProBox show that we had this past weekend with Christian Toon going down in a surprise, and Ray Beltran getting outboxed, outworked over 10. And I don't know, Marquis, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. For those who haven't listened to the podcast, I want to remind you all, this podcast is always brought to you by the fine folks over at ProBoxTV.com. ProBox TV had a fight card this past weekend over at the ProBox Center in beautiful Plant City, Florida. And Curtis Harper was brought in as an opponent. he walked out the victor. And Christian Tune, for lack of better puns and cliches here, guess you could say he got tuned up. Oh, that's terrible.
That's terrible.
Nonetheless,
Marquis, don't ever do that again, please.
Yeah, I'm thank God there's editing for that. I'm going to completely wipe that. That conversation will never happen. You'll never know what happened before that. But
keep it in. Keep it in.
Keep it in. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Do it live.
Do it live.
Christian Tune lost the unanimous decision pretty much wide. Got knocked out in the third round, and from that third round, Kyle, he didn't look like the same guy and was pretty stationary. And Roy Jones mentioned it pretty succinct on the commentary, I think in the fourth and sixth round, where he said, "This man is getting hit with the same shots over and over and over again, making me want to question the sport of boxing." Usually when you got a guy at that level and you got Hall of Famer Roy Jones pointing it out to you, it's a problem. Also was a problem is that, of course, Christian Tune was the ProBox prospect here and their guy. Well, their guy lost, but hopefully they get to run that fight back and we'll see what happens from there. But in the main event, at least, Cesar Francis looked really good against Ray Beltran, who we knew was on the way out, Kyle. I mean, he was 41, been fighting for a long time, world title challenger on several occasions. But at this point, we can clearly and safely say that Father Time has not only caught up with Ray, he's been on the bus with him heading out of here. So it's been a good run for him.
Well, speaking of Father Time, a fight that actually ended up being a lot of fun to watch just because it looked like both guys were gassed out around the fourth, fifth round was this Chisora Pulev fight over the weekend in the UK.
Oh man, Kyle, this Chisora Pulev card that aired on the DAZN last Saturday. The original rant was going to be about this card, Kyle, because leading up to that fight that you just mentioned with Chisora Pulev, I got to admit, it was some of the most abysmal, abominable, homerish as hell commentary and broadcast on the DAZN I've seen in a long time. And it was just universally terrible. So bad. The opening fight actually on the DAZN had this guy named Chris Healy as a late replacement who looks like the guy you probably will see in about 4 hours at your local pub here.
Looked like Chris Farley's stunt double.
He looked like Chris Farley's stunt double who ate Chris Farley's stunt double. That guy had no business being in the ring whatsoever. And thankfully, the referee involved in this debacle ended it in the first round, but they got to do better about putting the sludge on television. I mean, don't get me wrong. Here in the States, Kyle, we have bad club fights too all over the place. I mean, it's well documented. It's not hard to find on BoxRec, but they don't put it on live TV behind a paywall on such a big scale. That's atrocious. But back to the fight itself of importance. Derek Chisora won this fight on a split decision, and I'm going to need someone in Britain or the UK to explain to me the importance of why you guys don't use the 10-point must system. How hard is it to pick a winner of a round in a fight where two guys are getting punched in the face? Is beyond me. Because when you have scorecards like 116, 114, it's either that or I'm questioning your competency in math.
There were two 10-10 rounds then, or had to have been, right?
Yeah,
that.
So two of these judges either took a leak during this fight or whatever have you, and they just skipped it during these rounds. It's brutal, and I need to do better with that stuff. But personally, for my case, Kyle, I thought the judge that got Pulev winning had it right, because essentially Pulev was able to establish his jab, as limp as it was, as poor as it was, for essentially the entire fight. The only thing that Chisora was able to do on the back end of it, though, and you mentioned it after the fourth round, and this was pretty much the whole key of the fight, where Pulev would throw like 4 or 5 of these god-awful lazy jabs with Chisora sitting in the corner, just kind of like bobbing and sort of bobbing and weaving from it. And then he'll just either come over the top with an overhand right or an overhand left. And for some reason or another, that was the only punch that he would throw. And that was, for some reason, the only punch Pulev could not stop getting.
He was landing a lot of body shots in the clinch when he had his right hand free, which I'm sure helped a little bit slow Pulev down. But they don't really count. So what was he really landing other than the wild shots? But he'd land a couple here and there, and Pulev have to think twice about, I don't really want to be too aggressive. But Pulev's not that kind of fighter. He's a super robotic, Eastern European, straight up. I'm going to jab, maybe throw a hook, maybe throw an uppercut here and there, but he's not a world beater as far as power goes. So,
no.
But it looked like Chisora was out on his feet a couple times in the fight too.
And I think he was, but somehow they let this fight go. And of course, I could always sit here and just play the lazy card and be like, oh, maybe just home cooking for Chisora. But if you want folks to stop have that narrative, then explain this to me, because this fight took place in London, his hometown, in front of his kids and family, that's kind of important. And of course, he won a hometown decision, which a lot of folks fought, which I thought was weird too, Kyle. The way they framed this fight up before he got into the ring, you would have thought this was Derek Chisora's last CD mixtape. This was it. This is going to be the end of the line here. They did the only thing they didn't do was play any crazy the Chisora press conferences, asking Eddie for more money made, never, or threatening Regis Prograis and stuff like that. So that was the only thing missing from all of this. But hey, we'll see what happens.
After the fight, he did say he wants the Bronze Bomber.
Oh boy.
So
I want Powerball too. So we'll see what happens with that.
We'll see what happens.
But coming up with that, I wanted to talk to you, Kyle, because you were actually stateside here for fights in this side of the country. You were sitting here, you were actually in the venue for the Alamo Dome Saturday night for Showtime as Rey Vargas edges Mark Magsayo to become the new WBC featherweight champion at 126. So not only does Gary, in the year of our Lord 2022 in boxing, does Gary Russell Jr. fight his one time a year and lose this belt to Mark Magsayo, Mark Magsayo immediately defends it and loses it to Rey Vargas. So we got an active belt once again in the WBC at 126. But talk to me, Kyle, about this fight in the main event Saturday night and your experience there first.
Well, I had a good time. We had nice seats, straight on view up in the bleacher area there.
Yeah,
it wasn't super packed. Kind of a walk up crowd late. Frank Martin knockout in the 10th round kind of got people going. Up until then, it was kind of like it was a boxing match. It was a boxing match. 9th, 10th round, things got fun, got the crowd on their feet. The Figueroa fight was fun. Nice Texas representation out there. Got the crowd going, especially with that knockout late. I don't understand how the judges had Castro up. I believe he was up on 2 cards. Was that the case?
He was up on at least 2 of them. I want to say one was 48, 46, and something was like 49. It was a really screwy card that had Castro up, and I'm still puzzled at that. But back to your point with Frank Martin. Frank Martin looked really well coming up that, and he pretty much, his knockout pretty much woke up the entire crowd. Pretty much what you missed before that on the prelim action. There was a Rashidi Speedy Ellis sighting. He only took 2 minutes and 17 seconds to knock out a guy at 154 pounds, nondescript opponent. So he's back in action with PBC. Looking forward to seeing that fun stuff later. And also looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the rest of that card as well, because essentially before that, you missed nothing on that undercard. But
no,
Jackson Morenas on late notice. Well, they kept framing it as late notice. He was already in camp, and that showed in the ring when the bell rang. If this was like a real late notice, it's kind of disingenuous when they say that. Late notice usually means you're pretty much on the couch. You get the call or you answer the Facebook ad.
You had even said that this was going to be, you thought this was going to be a tougher fight than the original opponent. So I think you're right. Marinas, he gave as good as he got for a little while, and then finally, like 8th, 9th round, Martin started really, you saw
punch resistance.
Yeah, you saw the punch resistance going away and just kind of broke him down. The Figueroa fight, I think he's going to be a problem at 126. He throws so many punches. Once he gets going, it took him a round or 2 to kind of get going. But once he gets going, he's going to be a problem, because I think he'll stand in there and fight. He don't give a shit what's coming back. And
not at all.
And that's what I love about like these kind of fighters. You high output, throw a bunch of punches. He's kind of like his brother, but I think he's, a lot more disciplined and whatnot. And doesn't have the brittle hands like Omar.
Yeah, and the thing that, and Omar was on hand to hang out with the crowd in San Antonio. They had him with the family down the Washington River win this WBC eliminator for the winner, which would be Rey Vargas in the main event.
Yes.
I do like the fact that Figueroa moving up in weight is going to be a problem, and I think Rey Vargas pretty much noticed that as well, because he said after he won the fight, he wanted to take on Leo Santa Cruz, which I thought was kind of shifty. These promotions put these guys in these co-main events, especially PBC and Showtime. They've been doing this format pretty much since it's a format that HBO Sports was using in the 80s. It's not rocket science. You put the people you want to see in a co-main event, to take on the winner of the main event fight. It's pretty standard boxing 101 stuff.
And
I just
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you're good, Calvin. The first thing translated out from Felix de Jesus and from Spanish to English was, I want to take on Leo Santa Cruz in a unification bout. Our teams have been talking in already. And it's like, really? We want to take on Leo Santa Cruz?
I personally think the reason that is Vargas, again, he looked good. Like, he looked good from the 3rd to like 8th round. He looked like 122 Rey Vargas. That jab is high output, but I was right. He does not have enough power to keep. He didn't have enough power to make Mike Sayo think twice about coming forward. And you saw in the 10th round when he finally caught up to him and got the knockdown. He fights Figueroa. He's not going to be able to keep him off of him.
Yeah.
And he fights Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, not the biggest puncher in the world, especially 126. I don't know. I like Vargas a lot. I like watching him fight. I really do. But he doesn't have the pop. So it's not like he's not scaring anybody at that weight class. And it, like you said, as soon as he said Leo Santa Cruz, I'm like, I don't think he really wants anything to do with Figueroa there.
No, rightfully so. And it's funny. I wrote this for NY Fights earlier this week. Go ahead and check that out, nyfights.com. Pretty much on Monday, when I wrote this, was like, so this guy wants to take on Leo Santa Cruz, which I thought was kind of ironic. Leo Santa Cruz pretty much is the shadow and image currently of Brandon Figueroa. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like he wants to fight the guy that throws volume punches, but doesn't want to take the volume punches back. And that's kind of what this is. I'm not saying it's the strategic or a duck or any other boxing cliche nonsense, but it's just not the fight I want to see personally. But
so what do you think's next for Magsayo?
I think Magsayo is going to have to work his way back up on this. And I just think with him, he's just one of those guys where if they figure out the pattern of him, because he is limited in what he does. But the one thing that he was able to do to Rey Vargas, which I thought was pretty impressive, was he was able to feint and head feint, and he was able to land a straight right pretty much in the entire fight long towards the neck region. Like, if anyone watches back that fight in this Vargas Magsayo fight in the main event, there were about 5 or 6 times, Kyle, you were there, that Vargas was ruled a slip. Yeah, that slip was because Mike Sayo kept punching him in the neck. So at some point that punch was going to land, and that's what led to that knockdown actually later on in the fight, which I thought Magsayo was going to capitalize. He's going to kick himself for not closing the show in that 10th round, by the way. That's going to come back to haunt him, actually.
I think so too. But
hold on tight, guys. We're going to talk about this week's fights. We got King Ryan in action. I didn't know it either. We'll be right back.
There it is. Check him out. All right, now with the hats. Here we go. Ahora sí. Ponte la gorra. Come on. Tom Hogan's got to get the good picture right there, right? There it is. At exchange, they're still going to knock each other out. 5:00 p.m. Pacific time on DAZN, Crypto.com Arena. Javier Fortuna, Ryan Garcia. Check that out Saturday night.
The boogeyman slayer.
I'm
slayed the boogeyman. I slayed the boogeyman. I'm scared of the boogeyman. I never been scared of the boogeyman. As a kid, I never been scared.
Never.
I'm a dog.
Never.
Yeah, let's get it.
Never. I am boogeyman.
Welcome back to the Say What You Say podcast. Marquis Johns here, still with Kyle Johnson. Going to talk over this week's fight action. We have Ryan Garcia back in action. Twice in a year, Ryan Garcia being active, Kyle. It's going to be great. He is taking on currently Javier Fortuna this Saturday night at the Crypto.com. That's never going to catch on corporate. The Staples Center, that caught on because it was there for too long. The place where the Lakers play basketball is where they're fighting this Saturday night, live on DAZN. And it's an interesting fight, Kyle, only for the simple reason that it's enough to stay busy for him. And honestly, I didn't know he was going to be in action this week. I'm going to be full disclosure. I took 3 emails and him talking at yesterday's presser about this fight. But what do you think about him taking on Fortuna?
I'm excited to see him fight. It's always an event. I feel like they're, Golden Boy and the like are trying to build him up into, another mega star. He's got a ton of social media clout, obviously. He's only 23 years old, so it's nice to see him active after all the the mental health stuff and what have you, all the extracurriculars. But the fight against Luke Campbell was obviously pretty exciting.
Yeah.
When he knocked out Fonseca, when he knocked out Duno in the first round.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's exciting. I was at the Tago fight. It was, after the first round, it was kind of boring. He was loading up with that left hook, and
Tago kept on that thing coming.
yeah, and so you wonder, like, okay, what has he worked on with Goosen since? Is Fortuna going to be, expecting that, leaping left hook? What's, how's Ryan? Ryan's got to look more polished in this one, I think. And I think he's got to have a much better performance than the Tago fight to kind of wash that dirty taste out of people's mouths from the last one, if you will.
Yeah, the way Garcia is going to look, it's going to be a weird measuring stick and a gauge. And I'm glad you mentioned the Luke Campbell fight, Kyle, because pretty much that's the fight that pretty much I thought was his best performance by far out of all of these, including those 1-round wipeouts of Duno and Fonseca, which, because pretty much those guys just ran into that left hook and they're still probably still sleeping from it. So my thinking with Garcia on this fight, hopefully he's going to have to box better. The one thing with Fortuna, I will admit though, Fortuna will be there to be hit. That was the one thing we all saw against him against Jojo Diaz. And if Ryan Garcia has any boxing ability, even half the level of Jojo Diaz, this fight is over and it gets smoked easily. But if not, we get what you got against Tagbo, where he's pretty much doing the load up on this left-handed haymaker thing, hoping that he runs into it. And Tagbo saw it in the first round, spent the next 11 avoiding it. So we'll see what happens. Did.
So I could see, I think you're right there too. Like Fortuna's slowed down just a little bit. Yeah. And I think he's there. He's going to be there to get hit. I could see, probably 7th, 8th round stoppage, what I'm thinking here.
That sounds
Saturday
about right.
Night.
I can go with that. And those who are on the gambling tip here, to find folks over at FanDuel or in your favorite gambling sportsbook parlor for short-term purposes only and entertainment purposes only as well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with that is, Ryan's a huge favorite in this. I think the last I saw, Fortuna was like plus 700. That is not exactly climbing out the woodworks for me to put me down. So we're all expecting Javier Fortuna to fall asleep, sports books included, and that's probably the case Saturday night.
So me, anyone that knows me knows I am a big fan of the smaller fighters. Minimum weight up to about $122 is my wheelhouse. I love these guys. Right. So one thing I'm really, really excited about for this card actually is this Oscar Collazo Victorio Saludar fight. Collazo has quite the extensive amateur background. He's only 4-0 in his pro career, but he's won 5 national amateur titles. And he won the gold medal at the 2019 Pan American Games. So that's exciting. Always fun to see a mini flyweight fight. He's only 5'1", born in Newark and represented Puerto Rico. So I'm very excited to see what Golden Boy does with this guy if he has a really good performance.
And if anything else, Kyle, you've already sold me on this, and I think he's going to be fighting on the before the bell action on the Zone. So you all can catch this fight pretty much live on the Golden Boys' YouTube or the Zone's YouTube. And you're telling me that there's going to be an angry 5'1" guy from New Jersey in the ring fighting. I'm sold.
Yeah, you can't beat that. So I also see on BoxRec, and I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but Diego De La Hoya has a pending approval bout against Enrique Bernache, who is 24-13. Diego hasn't fought in quite a while.
Diego hasn't fought since the Zone was still doing that fight season campaign back in 2019, and it's been a while. And the last time he was seen, he was beat on that card. Actually, I think he lost in the 3rd round. He was at the War Ground. I just remember him
lost to Ronnie Rios.
And I remember him getting absolutely iced by Ronnie Rios. That was not a good look. But in the event that they clear that fight in California for Saturday, that's interesting. Lamont Roach is back in action, and we get to see it on television this time around. Last time we all saw him, I think, was on Facebook Live, out of all things. He's in a title eliminator at 126. He's going to try to make not 126, 130 to make his way back up the charts that way. Also saw on this card, want to see what Ricardo Sandoval looks like. That's another guy that I think is going to be really interesting to keep an eye out for, and a real decent test for him too. This Golden Boy card Saturday night's really good, coming from Saturday night in LA. If you're in the area, check it out. Want to also mention as well, Kyle, we have Top Rank action this Friday on ESPN Deportes, and the app, of course, the Plus. He is taking on Danielito Zorrilla in the main event there. Want to get your thoughts on that. 140 is going to be looking to be a cluster, and the story I think they're going to set up. And I'm going to beat Top Rank and ESPN all Friday before they bore you to death with the storyline here. Essentially, Barboza Zorrilla is a fight that they're going to have set up for the winner of some Teofimo Lopez guy and Pedro Campa at 140. I think those four are the current tournaments table that they have set up for it, because it's for a WBO regional belt that eventually will lead to a WBO belt that Josh Taylor dropped already. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with that. And that's the fight that's going to be interesting, but it's a real crossroads fight. I want to get your thoughts on it.
I am pretty excited about this fight because I think Barboza Jr. is a really good fighter. I like Zorrilla quite a bit. We saw him on that Ring City card against Ruslan Madiev, where Madiev just kept hitting him in the back of the head over and over again, which was kind of ridiculous. We saw him knock out Pablo Cesar Cano in the second round in September of last year. So he's got a little bit, he hasn't fought in 10 months. And that could be, there could be a little bit of ring rust there, but Barboza Jr. has been on, guy's 26-0. He's been on a nice little run, beat up Alex Saucedo. I like that fight in the bubble. And then he beat up Antonio Moran in August of 2021. So again, both these guys haven't really fought about 10, 11 months. So it'll be interesting to see, but I want to see what happens at 140 and how all this shakes out with the belts, because I think Taylor's going to fight Catterall again, right? He dropped the WBO belt just for that. And you're going to end up having a logjam of guys if Taylor wins and decides to move up, fighting for a bunch of different belts, and we'll be back to square one with 4 different champions, I feel like.
Yeah, I think they're starting that process all over again, because the WBA has already made the mandatory, already said with Perello later on down the line, and now this is the WBO setting this up for pretty much the Josh Taylor garage sale as well. I might like to refer to this as, because that's what they're all doing here for this. But I want to get to admission as well on this undercard. Interesting undercard as well that you see on ESPN Plus. Stephen Shaw is back in action, taking on Bernardo Marquez. One of the interesting things about Stephen Shaw, former Olympian, actually trying to see what he's doing at heavyweight. Was supposed to fight during the bubble on the Ring City card out in West Point, but got injured. So we'll see how he looks. I'm looking to see how he how he progresses as well. And on this undercard, couple of names of top-ranked prospects I want you guys to keep an eye out for. Ricardo Torres is their Olympic prospect they signed up. His last fight had a wicked gash on his forehead. I want to see how that heals up in his second fight, come back around here. That's probably why he's been out for so long, by the way. Want to check out for that. And also, you may have heard of Cashflow Diaz. He's been on every Floyd Mayweather meme I've seen for the last 6 years. He's on this undercard too on ESPN Plus. Anything, Kyle, on this undercard that I missed that you want to check out by chance?
No, you pretty much nailed it right on the head. I think the Muratalla fight should be fun, just because he's been kind of running through everybody lately. I think he's got 9 stoppages in a row, 10 stoppages in a row. So that could be like a fun little showcase fight on ESPN. But I'm excited to see Torres. Anytime you get an Olympic medalist early in his career, you could see what they've got in the pro ranks. It's always fun. And Cashflow Diaz, I want to see what I want to see from him is a little bit more power. He's 5-0 with 1 knockout. I want to see a little bit more pop from him.
Yeah, I wonder how he's going to progress with that, because usually when you see records like that, when you see 5 and then you see the 1 knockout, you kind of wonder, is he overboxing or overthinking in the ring? Because these are pretty much 4-round fights, where more often than not, these fights are set up for these guys to either be hit or knocked out. So I'm always intrigued with stuff like that. And wanted to see as well with him just a progression as a whole, because it's a lot of showcase and spotlights going on with this cards this week. And wanted to get your thoughts as well, Kyle. Quick news and notes so we can wrap this up on our end here. The WBA, despite their incompetence here, they did something right. They ordered something that I want to see, which is at light heavyweight, the fight between Dimitri Bivol against Zordo Ramirez. Hell of a fight. Whenever it happens, whenever Oscar and Eddie figure out the monies from DAZN and whoever pays it up, I don't care who or when, just make it happen. Want to get your 2 cents on it, Kyle. What do you think finally that we're getting the chance to see Bivol back in action again after Canelo taking on Zordo?
I love it. I think I hope this fight happens. I think it will happen because I don't think there's really any roadblocks as far as, the networks and whatnot. And I think, Eddie and Oscar can probably get the deal done, or whoever's doing what at Golden Boy nowadays.
Yeah.
But I think they can get done. And if it does get done, it's a very exciting fight on paper. Maybe, there won't be a ton of drama, but I think both guys are really, really good boxers. They're both good enough punchers to keep each other honest. And I think that this could be, this is a little grandiose, but I think this could be like a legacy defining fight for either guy, because whoever wins, you take the O of a guy. If Zurdo wins, he beat the guy that beat Canelo, and you took his 0. And if Bivol wins, Zurdo gets his second belt in second division. And if Bivol wins, you've got another head on the stake at that run of legitimacy at 175. So I think it's a cool fight. The boxing, again, we need more of these fights.
Yes.
Don't give a shit how they get made. Just fucking make these fights, man. And Marquis, this will lead me into my favorite question to ask to round out the Say What You Say boxing podcast. If Zurdo wins, Marquis, he becomes a two division champion, undefeated, 40 plus fights. Not a world beater resume, but I mean, just beat Bivol, and he hasn't been beaten and nothing's been close. Is he a Hall of Famer at that point?
He's only a Hall of Famer, Kyle, if Maxim Vlasov does the opening speech for him. I just don't know if it happens or if we see it, only because of his resume. His resume, you mentioned that at the top, his resume is a who's who of guys I have not seen fight actually in years. I mean, Jesse Hart's on it, Alfonso Lewis, Yelensky Gonzalez, Sullivan Barrera. If you guys are all asking me who the hell these guys are, they're guys. So I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame just yet.
Okay. All right. I'd have to agree with you there. I would say yes on that. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer either.
You know what though? Once this fight becomes official and if Ramirez is able to pull this off, that this conversation is happening. You know how boxing social works.
It's probably going to happen, and you'd have to do a little deeper dive onto it. I'm not there yet.
Me neither. I don't know if Tommy Kapernsky is going to help bolster his case either on the way out.
Was that the True TV fight way back in the day?
No, I think that was the fight that he had on the Lomachenko card with $1 million Corolla. Man, talking about guys getting absolutely mopped on Friday night in LA. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But on that low note, I want to remind you guys, if you catch the podcast, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your haters, tell anybody. I don't care. Say What You Say podcast. Follow us on Twitter at SWYS Boxing. You can follow me at Weak Sauce Radio. Hey, you can also email the show. You know what, guys? Email the show. Send whatever. Just don't send any crypto or NFT nonsense. Say What You Say Boxing at gmail.com. If it's interesting, we'll read it. Who cares? Kyle, where can they follow you at, my man?
You can follow me at KAYJAYSA on Twitter. And just feel free to email us. It's we like to hear whatever you want to say, good, bad, indifferent. But just don't spam us with any NFT or crypto stuff, because that will just get deleted immediately.
Yeah, we're not in the market, unfortunately, and personally, neither should you. But until next time, for Kyle, I'm Marquis. Say what you say.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.